Thanks everybody for being here and for inviting me to come to Grand Prairie. I've been here since Tuesday night. I came with the snow. Don't blame me. It was snowing in Edmonton when I left, but I don't think it was really my fault. And I've had a really great week hanging out with my colleagues here and getting to see some of the students a little bit and just getting a taste of what it's like up here in the first year of NAMP. My name is Joanne Rodger. I am the Assistant Dean of Program Evaluation and also the Director of Program Quality and Accreditation in the MD program in Edmonton. And essentially what that means is that I'm responsible for all things related to accreditation, quality improvement, strategic planning, and new to my portfolio is also teacher support, which I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. I was here in June for the last faculty development event, and I talked a little bit about CALI. Some of this, kind of like what Lillian said, some of this may sound a little bit repetitive because there's only so many things that you can talk about CALI, particularly when you're not all sitting here with a computer open, sort of clicking along with me. But I also decided to do that a little bit intentionally because when I was talking about some of these things in June, you didn't necessarily have learners. You hadn't actually been doing some of the small group teaching that you're doing now and that kind of thing. And it was a little bit sort of theoretical, I think. And so now you've had a few months under your belt. Hopefully you've had a little bit of a chance to interact with CALI. We have students who are now using CALI. And so hopefully a few of the things that I point out now will make a little bit more sense. But what I've tried to do is really highlight a few tips that I think will enhance your experience of CALI as you kind of move into the second year of teaching, and also as you have more students working with you clinically. Feel free to ask questions as we go along. I'm going to try and keep this so that we end right on time so that Lisa Purdy, who is our last speaker today, can get started on time and everybody can be out of here at our scheduled time. So like everybody else this morning and this afternoon, I have no disclosures to report and no conflict of interest. And I have a few goals that I hope we will achieve by the end of this session. I'd like to introduce or reintroduce you to this program delivery system that we call CALI. I'm going to summarize just a few key features. I could probably talk all day, or somebody smarter than me could probably talk all day about all of the key features. But I do want to highlight a few things that I think will be really of interest to you today. I want to highlight the faculty development modules that are available in CALI that I think will be of interest to many of you who are teaching, and you may not have heard about this new feature that we launched in the fall. As I said, I want to share a few tips for using CALI that might be useful for you and demonstrate how you can access the curriculum map. Because one of the things that we hear from instructors is they don't always know where their part of the curriculum fits in with kind of the whole picture. And not that you necessarily are thinking about these things on a daily basis like I am, but sometimes it is nice to know, particularly if you're teaching students, that the session that you're teaching today actually links into things very deliberately, and sometimes it's nice to kind of see that bigger picture. So I'll show you how you can do that and access it on your own. So what, in short, is CALI? Well, CALI is a network of University of Alberta developed systems that is designed to facilitate teaching and learning in the Faculty of Medicine and Dentistry. And the one thing that I'm super proud of when it comes to CALI is that it really was developed in-house. I was just telling Davina that we have 5 computer programmers. I call them the boys. Don't tell Avery, although that is an actual deliberate term to describe that particular group of folks that I work with. The boys work in an office right across the hall from me. I feed them regularly because they are highly motivated by food, and they. True story. And they are the programmers who have developed all aspects of this particular system. So when I say it's homegrown, I really mean that it was homegrown right in Edmonton in the MD program office. CALI is currently used by the MD program, by the School of Dentistry, by the radiation therapy program, and parts of CALI are used by the postgrad program. And I think that that's even expanding out, and they will be adopting more and more of the CALI features so that ideally, we will all be kind of one system that we're all using across the FOMD and all of our programs. CALI first was born with one particular module called Assess. And many of you are using Assess. That's where you access your discovery learning materials. It's where you access your ICR tutor guides. If you are working clinically with students, that's where you access EPAs and other assessments. And Assess was built probably 12 years ago initially, and was really meant to supplement some of the other MD program systems that we were using at the time. And then what has happened is over time, we've created other components or modules of Cali. Wasn't called Cali then, but we just created all these sort of separate modules: users, items, portfolio, data, and most recently, calendar. And then once all of those individual components were created, they kind of come under this umbrella that we named Cali. And it's one kind of integrated system, one-stop shop for students, for faculty, and for staff to access all things that we need to keep organized, to assess our students, to have our students evaluate us and our program, to access exam questions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a lot. It's a lot of places that you can go and a lot of things that you can access. And the one thing that I will highlight is that generally speaking, you only need to access the pieces of Cali that you need to access. You probably are never going to be in exam, for example, because that's the place, the way that students access their final exams. That's where MCQ questions and short answer questions are stored. So it's fine. You never have to go into that. Our course coordinators probably are in exam. To be honest, I'm not even sure that I have access to exam because we have exam security rules and that kind of thing. So some of this you'll be like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about, and that's okay because you don't necessarily need to be accessing it on a regular basis. So what I would suggest is anytime you're trying to access some component of Cali, I would start here at users.med.ualberta.ca. That's because that will take you to your instructor homepage, and I'm going to show that to you in a moment. Before I move to my next slide, though, I'll just highlight, and it's kind of hidden here. Let me see if I can move this. This little waffle menu that's hidden under my little banner is how you can navigate through Cali. And so you can click on any of these icons from your user homepage or from any place that you can see the waffle menu, and it will take you to the other components of Cali that you have access to. The other thing that I'll just quickly highlight, and this is kind of the bandwagon that I am on currently, you have to access Cali using your U of A CCID and password. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. It's one more login and password that I know everybody has to keep track of, but it's really important. It's the only way you're going to access Cali. And I'm going to just put in a plug for using your U of A email address for all things related to learners at the U of A. It's a university policy that we use our U of A system for things like marks and assessments. It's a privacy thing. And that's what we encourage students to use when they're contacting their instructors and their preceptors. On the back end of the system, as soon as we have people using their AHS or their Google regular Gmail addresses or their old Hotmail addresses for things like EPAs, that creates a whole separate sort of account in the system or a separate profile. And so suddenly we have physicians that have 2 or 3 or 4 kind of profiles. And that means that it's harder for you as preceptors to get evaluations, to get your teaching evaluation reports, because instead of having everything sort of connected in one place, it's sort of connected to multiple email addresses. So if at all possible, encourage students to use your U of A email for all things related to teaching. Try and use your U of A email yourself for all things related to teaching. And that saves my team a whole lot of work because then we don't have to try and find you and put different pieces together and make sure you're the same person with multiple different email addresses. All right, I will get off my soapbox and move on to this instructor homepage. This is really small and it's hard to see exactly, but this is what happens when you log, or what you'll see when you log into your user account, users.med.ualberta.ca. And the instructor homepage is your one-stop shop for all sorts of things, including access to faculty development modules, to scheduled teaching events, to assessments that may require completion or a list of assessments that you have completed. And then your reports, like your teaching evaluation score reports that Lillian was talking about, and your contribution letters that we publish once a year to sort of acknowledge all of the work and all of the contributions that you have made to the program. So this is my first tip, my first CALI tip, which is the faculty development modules. And I'm just going to close out of my slide here just for a second and show you exactly what that looks like. Sorry, I gotta move. No, I moved in the wrong direction.
I think it doesn't appear.
Oh, is it not?
End, but no,
you can see.
Everything else, there's no banners.
Okay. Oh, perfect. Okay. It's just me, my user error that I couldn't see where I was clicking. Okay. So this is my homepage, and the faculty development modules are here on the right-hand side. And if you click on all, you'll see that we currently have 27 faculty development modules, some of which were contributed by Lillian, contributed by Avery. She actually created one of our modules. Other experts, VJ Daniels, created several of these modules. And they're all here. They're asynchronous. They're meant to be short, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, not more than that typically. They were designed so that people who are very busy can kind of get short snappers of information that they may require to teach our students. So if you maybe are teaching DL, for example, for the first time, and you suddenly think, I don't remember, I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to do with DL on Monday morning, and it's Sunday night, which is often when many of us are starting to plan for the next week. You can log into users.med.ualberta.ca, click on to the faculty development modules, and you will see a two-parter discovery learning faculty development module created by Andre Isaac, who is our discovery learning lead. And he's put together a series of resources and videos to help you figure out all of the things that you need to know to be successful teaching DL. We have similar resources for other modalities of teaching. The one that we don't have yet, although Karen Forbes promises that she will create one, is for ICR. So we will get that one created for the next academic year. So these are here. There's a communication session one. There's a physical exam session one. There's kind of an overview, introduction to longitudinal clinical experiences, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to read all of them out for you. The one thing that I will sort of suggest if you're using these faculty development modules, make sure you go right to the end and then click the little acknowledgement that you've completed it, because then that will show us how many people have actually gone through and completed the module. But we are also hoping to get to a point where we'll have like a dashboard that will show you exactly what you've completed so that we can kind of recognize that part of the work that you've done with us as well. So that's the faculty development modules. Questions about users of the FacDev components? We are going to create more. I will fully admit that my attention got diverted by accreditation, which happened last fall, and so I didn't have as much time in the fall as I had hoped, but we are going to create some more modules and be launching those in the next few months, so stay tuned. As I said, this is where you can access your TES reports and your contribution letters. You just click on the report feature. Contribution letters will be going out in the summer, probably in July of this year. So this is kind of like it was all planned this way. Lillian talked in her last presentation about feedback. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of things about student feedback. So Lillian was focused primarily on giving feedback to students, but there's also that component of receiving feedback. And I think it's really important to recognize, that we do have processes in place for you to receive feedback with the caveats that Lillian mentioned. We don't release the reports unless you have 3 or more student evals in the same teaching session. So if you only teach, one section of DL and you don't get you don't get 3, that's not a good example because you would get more than 3 evals in that particular case. But go with me. We wouldn't release it because it's hard to protect student anonymity in that case. But assuming you have enough evals in a particular type of session and a particular course, you will receive an email at the time that the evaluation reports are published with the instructions on how to access your reports. So basically, it tells you how to access them through users.med.ualberta.ca. This is what a teaching evaluation score report looks like. It may look a little different if you've received them in the past. The university rules around providing faculty with feedback changed, and we can no longer use numerical scores. So instead, and it's a little hard to see here, but I will happily share the slides with you. Instead, you just kind of get a little bar graph that shows sort of roughly how many people said they strongly agreed or disagreed. The feedback I've heard about this is that it's not as useful as knowing that, 8 out of 10 people strongly agreed with the comment. And I can appreciate that, but the university rules were very strict and we have to follow them. So this is sort of the format that we are required to provide to you. To be honest, though, often to me, the more important component of any feedback report is the narrative comments that students provide. Although I will also add a caveat to that, saying that sometimes student feedback is not particularly actionable and sometimes it's not particularly helpful. So as Lillian said, sometimes you just kind of have to read it and decide what it is you're going to sort of take and think about and reflect on and potentially change. And sometimes you have to just be okay with kind of letting it go. We do have a process whereby we filter comments. So that means my team and I review every comment that students make. It's kind of upwards of 50,000 comments a year. I think it's actually getting closer to 60,000 comments a year. We read every word and we have a rubric that we use to sort of go through and decide whether that's a comment that we're going to leave in your report. And we look at things like psychological safety. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen occasionally that a student will make a comment that is not professional, not respectful, that we feel is going to harm the preceptor or the instructor in a way that is not constructive or helpful. So we will take that out and you will not see it in your report. What's more common, however, are things like, I didn't like when this lecture was scheduled. It should have been last week. That's a fair comment. But you as an individual lecturer have usually very little control over when your session is scheduled. So that kind of comment we keep within the program to sort of use for the following year to decide, when we're planning a course, if we can rearrange things. But we don't feel that that's particularly helpful for you to have on your report that might influence your annual report or that kind of thing. So we have a whole process. I could talk more about that, but in the interest of time, I'm going to keep going. But I think it's really important for our instructors to recognize that we take student feedback seriously, but we also want to try and make it as useful for you as instructors as possible. And so we do have that intermediary step before you receive your reports. Lillian, it looked like you were going to say something.
I was actually. I had a question about your TES. You said they took the numeric portions out of it. Does it give you a final overall score though? Like it would be like 4.78 out of 5, or just this bar graph that gives you a gestalt. So it doesn't necessarily say it was 10 students who did this and 50 students who said that. Okay.
I'll come to that in a second. You are correct, Lillian. There's no more numbers at all. So I was doing my promotion package a couple of weeks ago and was trying to go through my TES reports. I don't teach in the medical school, but I teach in the Faculty of Education, and trying to write a narrative reflection about, my scores when I didn't actually have a score was a bit of a challenge. I don't know exactly why they made that decision. It had to do with the new collective agreement for academic faculty members. And it was, I think, in an attempt or the beginning of an attempt to have faculty members and the faculty evaluation process focus less on student feedback and encourage more multimodal feedback, I think. But I'm actually not sure kind of what the full rationale for that was.
It's still tells you how many submissions at the top.
It tells you the number of submissions, but you can kind of figure it out. Like this was for a session that I did a couple of years ago. So, there's a very little bar in front of the strongly disagree. So you can kind of assume that out of 12 submissions, it's maybe one or two. So you can kind of figure it out, but there's no actual like overall, this instructor is great, 4.8 out of 5. So if that's something, if that means a lot in terms of how you kind of feel validated by student feedback, that is kind of gone from our reports now.
Yeah, not to slow things down or anything, but I want to say thank you for all you do for removing those harmful remarks, because as a teacher, you'll sometimes see teachers who be like, oh my gosh, they may get like 20 fantastic comments and they focus in on the one, and then we either have to undo all the damage and be like, no, come back and teach for us. Just because there's that one comment doesn't mean that you weren't loved as a teacher. And so I know for myself, I read those comments, I'll be like, oh, but, so thank you for that hard work.
Yes, of course. And I will just add to that sometimes we have to leave comments in that may be hard to read. So having something that's hard to read is not quite the same as having something that is psychologically unsafe. And I will also admit that it is sort of a subjective process. It's human. There's two of us that read it. We're human beings. Maybe someday there will be an AI way of doing it, but even that is probably not perfect. And I don't pretend that our way is currently perfect. But the goal really is to help people see the feedback as just that. And then, as Lillian has said, that sometimes, you can take it or you can leave it. And that's kind of up to you how you interpret it. But just keep in mind that although we do filter things, doesn't necessarily mean we're going to remove everything that might be difficult to read. I will also say on that final point, and this is more of a side note, but reading your student feedback with friends also helps. That is actually how I do it. We have wine and dinner together, and we all read our student feedback, and that makes it a little bit easier. So just a little tip, if that's helpful. No, I don't think we can do that, sadly. Sure. Yeah, come on over. I'll send the invite. We can do it by Zoom if that's helpful. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. This is sort of Cali adjacent, but I'm taking my 30 minutes in spotlight to highlight a couple of other things that are not specific to Cali, but that I think are important to know about and that I want to reiterate. So as we're talking about student feedback and the kinds of comments that you receive, you may not be able to have a dinner party with wine to kind of go through the comments, but sometimes you do want to have another person to sort of help you think about, what does this mean and how can I take this feedback and try and apply it to my teaching context? So if you want help with that or anything else related to teaching in the MD program, both at the pre-clerkship and the clerkship level, we have that for you. We're here for you. And we have an entire team of teacher support people who are here to support and help and answer your questions. Two of our amazing team are here, Mark and Fatima. That is our NAMP teacher support team. And then we have kind of a parallel teacher support team in Edmonton. You met VJ Daniels this morning. He is our brand new Director of Teacher Support in Clerkship. He is continuing on in his assessment role for another month or two while we hope to find somebody to fill his very large shoes. But he will be transitioning over into teacher support kind of starting now. And then we also have a director of teacher support for pre-clerkship, and that is Dr. Karen Niederhofer. She replaces Liz Rozalowski, who moved on to be our associate dean for faculty development for the entire Faculty of Medicine and Dentistry. So we have faculty level faculty development, and we have program level teacher support, which also includes faculty development and events like this. I didn't put an administrator name in the Edmonton column here because we don't yet have a full-time teacher support administrator in Edmonton, but we are working on that. We have a position that is being posted early next week, and we will have that person in place hopefully very soon. So we have lots of people that are working on finding ways and developing resources to support you. And I know here in NAP, you also have leads who are here to support in small group teaching and that kind of thing. And so I see all of this as part of the package that we have available to help make our teachers feel recognized and as well supported as possible. I'm not going to spend much time on this because what you are able to view in Assess, the component of CALI that is really focused on all those lower stakes assessments, things like discovery learning, tutor and student guides, your team-based learning materials, integrated clinical reasoning materials, et cetera, et cetera. All of that and your view of that, as I said earlier, varies depending on what you teach and what you have access to. But you can navigate to Assess, you can see what's there, what you have access to. And if you think that there's something that you should have that you don't have, I'm going to just say, talk to Kate, because Kate and Nicole can certainly help guide you in the right spot or direct you to the appropriate person. And I know we often also provide emails with a lot of that material. So sometimes you don't even have to go into CALI. You can just access it through your email. Many of you will probably have used Calendar or seen the schedule in Calendar. Calendar is really for students in particular, kind of their day-to-day, hour-to-hour, where do I need to be, when do I need to be there, and giving them access to all of the materials for each particular session. So again, this is pretty small, but you can see when you open a calendar event in the calendar feature that students and folks that have access to that particular course can see the lecture notes, the vodcast, the name of the instructors. If it's a small group session, you can see the names of the students that are in your small group, et cetera, et cetera. So if you haven't had a chance to sort of investigate Calendar, I would encourage you to do that because it's kind of a wealth of information and gives you lots of details so that you can sort of see what students are seeing as well. This is a useful tip that I only just discovered. So now that you're coming to the end of your first year of teaching in NAP, maybe you want kind of a list of all of the things that you've taught this year. Not sure why you would want that, but you might. And sometimes it's nice to kind of reflect back on all of the things that you've done. And so there is a place, it's called a report view, that you can see all of the events that you have taught. This is really small on the screen. I have handouts because I'm a teacher through and through. So I made you some handouts and I've given you instructions on how to do this at home if you want to have kind of a personalized report of all of the things that you have done this year. And then you can pat yourself on the back and congratulate yourself on a job well done for all of the things that you've contributed to the program. Quickly, another thing that I want to highlight is that in a couple of different places in CALI, both in the calendar view and in the curriculum map, you can see the program level objectives and how they map to the course level objectives, and then how all of that maps to each session level objective. This is probably one of the nerdiest things I've ever said in my whole life, but this brings me great joy that we have such a detailed curriculum map so that you can see exactly, you, the students, the accreditors, can see exactly how all of our objectives map one to the other. And this is what Lillian was talking about, taking that kind of learning plan and making sure that the things that you're teaching tie back into the objectives for the course or the session. Again, I can come back another time and go into more detail, or there's other people in our office who are even more well qualified to talk about the curriculum mapping. But being able to see how our program level objectives, which are our graduation competencies, map to course level objectives, which then map to our session level objectives, has been really helpful to make sure that we are doing what we say we're doing in terms of teaching our students. And then all of that is mapped to our assessments. And so we're actually able to make sure that the things that we think we're teaching, we're also assessing, which again, wearing my accreditation hat is very helpful. And these things do make the accreditors very happy. So you can go into the calendar and you can actually see how all of these things are mapped. In the interest of time, I'm not going to give you a demonstration, but I'm happy to show you later, or you can kind of click around and see. But you can also go into the curriculum map and basically do the same thing. So this is an example. I did a quick search for stroke. I wanted to see where, this was actually from 23-24. I wanted to see where stroke was taught in the curriculum. We have many more places. This is just a cut-off screenshot of the whole list. But you can see that stroke is taught in our Med 546 clerkship. It's taught, not surprisingly, in cardiovascular course in Med 515. It's discussed and taught in Med 522 and in Med 524. And if you click on each of those particular sessions, you get more detail. You get the session level objectives. You can see the vodcast. You can see the PDF of the slides. And again, from a student perspective, it's really helpful to be able to wayfind through the curriculum and sort of see. We used to, get students saying to us, when they heard about stroke in like our foundations course, they seemed to think that that was going to be the only time they heard about stroke. And then they would panic because how can we learn everything there is to learn in 50 minutes? And so now we can actually direct them and say, no, this first lecture is just introductory. There's all these other things that you're going to learn about through the next 4 years. And so it helps them find their way through the curriculum. And that may be helpful for you as instructors as well. The last thing I'm going to highlight, which is definitely a non-Cali tip, but I've got the QR code in this package that I'll hand out after. And for those of you that are online, I don't have physical packages to give to you, but if you would like a package, send me an email or email Fatima and we can get you a digital version of this. We've just launched a new website that is kind of an onboarding and orientation website for new instructors in the MD program. This is meant to be a bit of a one-stop shop for all sorts of information. I talked to my colleagues about things that maybe they wished they had known when they first started teaching. So it includes information about faculty development. It includes information about how to access your U of A email. It includes, because I'm a librarian, it includes how to access the U of A library system and all of the good things that you can find there. It's really meant to be as comprehensive as possible. I have no doubt, given that, though, that I have forgotten things. So if you are on the site and there's something that is not covered, send me an email and I'd be happy to add it. This is meant to be a bit of a living document and something that I hope will be useful for new and future and maybe even not so new instructors over the next little while. Oh, and I'm sorry if I just scrolled away, but the QR code is in the folder. So I'm going to wrap it up just by reiterating a few key features that hopefully I've reminded you of or introduced you to today. Start always at your instructor homepage where you can access your schedules, your assessments, your TES reports and contribution letters, as well as those faculty development modules. Using the calendar will help you see your teaching schedule. You can also sync it with your calendar so that you can see it more easily on your phone and synced with your other personal or professional events. You can see curricular objectives and the tagging. You can figure out where your session fits within the course that you're teaching in. And those personalized teaching summary reports are also available in the calendar. You can access through Assess the teaching materials for specific sessions and any assessment forms that you need to complete. And in the data component is where you'll find the curriculum map and also the full list of program and course level objectives for every course and clerkship in the program.